Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Turn down this music. Should make sure my microphone's on, obviously. And it is. Need to get a chair that doesn't roll as much. This chair rolls a little too much. Hey, yeah. How you guys doing? Hope you're having a good day. I've had a pretty good day. Pretty low-key start to the day. Woke up, did some work, lifted some weights, did some more work, and now I'm going to take some lunch and continue to work on this whole Neovim thing. So if you haven't been following along, what we've been working on is, turn this down just a little bit. Is we've been working on setting up Neovim, and we followed this really great course by a guy named Typecraft. Actually, I don't know if that's his name. Well, let's see if I can actually find his real name. Anyways, it's called Neovim for Noobs. If you go to typecraft.dev, and it was really good. I went through all 6 of the episodes. He has them for free on YouTube if you want to also watch them on YouTube. But now I've sort of embarked on my own journey because it sounds like Typecraft primarily writes Ruby, JavaScript, TypeScript. Sounded like he also knows some Go. But I don't write Go, and I don't primarily write Ruby. The JavaScript and TypeScript stuff was very helpful, so I got some good stuff set up there. But the primary language I use for backend work, I guess you would call it, or server work. It's C#, it's .NET, and it's C# and .NET is not just for the backend. They have front end technologies. You know, they have MVC, they have Blazor, I guess is what you would call kind of their front end framework. But Blazor is kind of weird because it also works. You can use it server side. Blazor is more like Blazor in the JavaScript world is much more akin to something like Next.js because Blazor supports client-side rendering, server-side rendering. You can mix the two. So anyways, that's all to say that's primarily what I do a lot of development in. Completely honest, I'm not a professional developer. This is something I do for fun, and I enjoy a lot, and I've learned a lot, and have a lot of fun doing it. And C# is one of the languages I like to work in. So I need to get Neovim set up to work in C# and .NET effectively. And I've gotten pretty far along. So let's go to one of my projects. So one of the projects I've spent a lot of time on in the last, let's check out name. Is called Anthropic Client. Let me make this a little bigger. So if you're familiar with Anthropic, the company, right? They provide Anthropic.com. They provide and produce an LLM, a series of LLMs, all kind of under this family name of Claude. And so I wrote .NET, a C# SDK for it. And so that's what I'm going to use kind of for my test bed here. But yeah, so let's go ahead and open up Neovim. And you'll see I've got a pretty decent setup going. Obviously, I have a nice, pretty theme. Let's open up my file tree. I've got a good file tree here. I also have an LSP now. That's what we did last time, or I guess it was yesterday, where I can go and do stuff like, I can do stuff like Shift K to hover, right, to get documentation and information about the code. I can do stuff like, is it leader? I think it's GI. Goes to implementation. GR goes to references. All right, so I can go to references. Like, let's go to one of my tests. Pretty cool, right? And now what I want to do, the other thing I'll show you is, so actually, I guess it wasn't yesterday we did the LSP. That was 2 days ago or several days ago. Yesterday we did setting up a debugger. So I have a debugger too. So that's my LSP. Now I want to show you my, let me show you my debugger. It's pretty cool. And I'm excited about this stuff because I have seen people work in Neovim for a really long time. If you're familiar with like the Primogen or TJ DeVries, some of these, I think it's Divines. I can't remember how to say his last name. Anyways, I've seen these content creators out there who work in Neovim and they're super fast and their setup looks very aesthetic. And I've always thought, man, I'd love to, not that I hate VS Code or don't like VS Code, but I've always thought, man, I'd like to try that. But the thing that always held me up was I just thought it would be really, really complex to get debugging and language features set up. I just kind of always put it off. And so those Typecraft videos is kind of what convinced me to take this on. So I'm super excited that it's actually like, it's working. Okay, so the debugger. Let's go. I made a test project for the debugger. Let me open that up. And this is just a small, like, simple little console app. So now I can do space DT, and I can set a breakpoint. I know this big giant red circle is not the most aesthetic. I'm gonna change that. That was just left over from yesterday. So now if I click space DC, I get a picker, and this picker is really cool because this picker actually uses it presents different configurations that I can debug with. So the first one is just the one that's set up as part of my Neovim DApp configuration. So Neovim DApp is a plugin for Neovim that acts as a client to language servers, or not language servers, debug. What's the term? Not language servers, but debuggers, I guess, is what I say. Pieces of software that speak the debug adapter protocol, essentially, right? So .NET has one where you'll fire it up, that debugger will attach to your application, and then that piece of software will be able to talk back to Neovim DApp to actually communicate information about the debugging that's happening. And so that's the default one here. But the other two down below are probably even cooler because those two are actually coming from a launch.json, right? So if you're familiar with like the VS Code world, these are configurations that I can set up in a launch.json file ahead of time and can configure a lot of different options and functionality. And so now what I can do is I can leverage that and just say, run debug test. And now I have my debugger and I have my console window that opened up, and then I can step through this. So if I step through, I should see console.write line hello. And then if I step over one more time, it exits, right? So it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Yeah, I know it's very nerdy, but it's very cool to me. So what are we going to do today on lunch? So what we're going to do today on lunch is we are going to look at setting up. So if you've worked in VS Code, let me open Visual Studio. So in Visual Studio, there is this idea of a test explorer. Rider has similar things. I think Eclipse is the Java IDE probably has this. I've never used it. Visual Studio obviously has a test explorer and a test runner integration. So let's open up Anthropic Client. So what do I mean by this? Just for context, it's basically this guy, not source control, testing. It's basically this guy. So this is basically going to allow me to discover all the tests that are a part of this solution that I've opened up in Visual Studio Code. And the Test Explorer in VS works for it works for Playwright, it works for .NET. I mean, I think it works for most languages. And so this is really nice, a nice UI where you can just kind of easily select the tests you want to run. It's super convenient. It's a little bit more. It's a little bit easier to work with than doing everything, especially in my opinion, for .NET test, than doing everything through the command line. Right? If I just want to run a single test, it's kind of a lot more convenient to do that here in this GUI, or even open up the file and you get this really nice play button. That's a little bit more, I don't know, ergonomic, I guess. I'm sure there's some hardcore people out there that are thinking, just use the terminal, you'll be fine. But yeah, so I haven't been in here in a while. I need to update my extensions. Control-Shift-X. Right, Control-Shift-X. Control-Shift-X. I don't know why that's not working. Do it manually. Yeah, and I plan to still like keep VS Code up to date and use it occasionally, but I'm gonna try to give like Neovim a real like run as my primary editor once I kind of get all this stuff squared away. Obviously VS Code's great. Like there's no shade to throw at VS Code. This whole Neovim adventure is just, it's fun. It's something new. It involves learning. I've learned a lot about LSP, a lot about DAP. I kind of have a better mental model of some of the technologies that I've been using in VS Code and in Visual Studio that I just kind of sort of always took for granted. And now I kind of have a better mental model of like the different pieces of technology that help facilitate these functionalities and these features that I really enjoy. Okay, so how are we going to replicate this testing panel, this testing explorer in Neovim? That's what we're gonna solve today. So let's go ahead and close Visual Studio. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the repo of something. Actually, hold on. Let me open up my configuration. Let's delete it. Okay, so what do we have? We have this guy. We've already done this. Already done that. The debugging is all sorted out, at least for .NET and at least for JavaScript and TypeScript running in Node. There's probably more work to do on that front for other things. But the thing I'm going to work on today is this NeoTest. So, I also already figured that out. NeoTest. Right? Yeah, right. Okay. So let's go back to our browser window and we're going to search for NeoTest. So NeoTest is this framework I found that basically supports kind of this test explorer view. And then it has a bunch of supported runners, plugins or extensions, right? So it supports all these different runners. So the one I'm going to set up is for .NET. So first, let's get NeoTest set up. So I think I just need this guy. Let's go to, I guess we actually need to add a new plugin, don't we? Control B, and this is from the typecraft.dev course, where we set up this really nice like modular configuration where it makes it super easy to add a new plugin. All you have to do is go to your plugins directory, create a new file, and granted, each of your plugin files can return more than one plugin. So like you can sort of group plugins to make one plugin in your configuration. Like my completions file has multiple. My debugging, my LSP. So, but for this case, I'm going to call this NeoTest. Or maybe just testing would be a good one. I'm going to start with NeoTest is what I'm going to start with. So we'll click A, NeoTest.lua. We'll open that up, and then we'll go over here, copy this. We will return. Oops. That's not what I want to do. And I can actually get rid of some of these. So these I already have as dependencies elsewhere. So I can probably remove those. And this one I have elsewhere. So I really just need that fixed cursor hold. Okay, now let's try and quit. If we edit this again or open this again, it should load NeoTest. Cool, and let's do a quick sync. Let's fetch everything up to date. Looks like there were some breaking changes there. I'm okay with that. Check again. Okay, everything's up to date. Cool. Now what we need to do. I guess now what we need to do is we actually need to set up the. So we have NeoTest, but we don't have a runner. So, or I guess they don't call it a runner. They call it an adapter. I need an adapter for the test runner. So neotest.net is what we're looking for. And we are going to go down here. He doesn't have an example for oh, I guess I'm going to have to configure that. Okay, so there's the adapter. I don't think I need to provide any additional configs, honestly, because I already have this .NET Core debugger set up. I do need to do this though. I need to set up whatever commands it uses to run. Oh, maybe that's in the NeoTest repo. Okay, let's just focus on getting this installed. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. We need to install what? This guy. Copy that. And then we can just make this a dependency of NeoTest. This dependency. Probably make all of our undo. That out. My setup here is not the most ideal, to be honest. I'm kind of like working at an angle. Bring my monitor a little closer to me. Oh no, now it's in the camera. Can't do that. Yeah, I don't know. I have to get a lens with like a wider. I'm using a camera that has a 30mm lens on it, so it's kind of this tight shot. I'd like to get something that's a little wider. But the problem is with my setup right now is I'm not using my primary monitor. I'm using my monitor that's my secondary monitor is off to the side here, and so I'm kind of like twisted to type. What does it look like if I sit like this? Does it look okay? This looks okay. This looks like I'm on a conference call, I guess. Yes. So what do we want to do here? keep getting distracted, don't I? So we have NeoTest, and then we need to run this. So need to do make these lower keys. Big function. This setup, right? So the config is a special in lazy vim. From what I understand, is a special function that will get called when the plugin is initialized and loaded. I guess initialized, loaded. So you can put whatever code you want to run to set up your plugin in here. F neotest. We have neotest.dev. So I'm thinking that should be all we need, right? So let's write and quit, and then let's load it back up. But let's do it in my Anthropic client library. Yep. Neovim. Okay, let's quit that. So how do I view any of this stuff? So this is neotest.net, and I want to go to the neotest repo. Neotest. Let's see, usage. Okay, so this is the API. They have an output window. Looks nice. You can look at output per test. Look, they have an output panel. That's kind of like VS Code has that test output panel. This is the summary window. So this is like what I call the test explorer. They're calling the summary. Let's look and see what methods exist on the summary. Go in here, paste that. This should show us what methods are on that summary. So there's an open, there's a close, and there's a toggle. But let's just open it and see if it's let's open it and just see if we're getting test discovery, right? That's kind of probably the most important one. Quit. Quit? No, close. Do the same thing, we'll paste. Nope, not up there. Undo that. Paste this. Ah! Lua. And here we'll say require neotest dot summary dot open dot open. Okay, and so it says no tests found. I guess I was expecting to find something. Let's open a file. Text delta test. Oh, there we go. This error that keeps popping up, guys have probably seen this over the last couple of streams and videos. This is some error. It's something to do with what the debugger is sending back to NVim DApp, and NVim DApp doesn't have the right. I don't know. I've looked all over the internet to try to resolve it, and there's issues on GitHub that say that it should be resolved in Neovim. They added a check for this, but I usually just ignore it, and it occurs like once or twice. I ignore it, and I skip over it, and everything continues to work. So one of these days it'll annoy me enough that I will go digging around to get it figured out. But so it found all my tests, it looks like. So 415 tests. So that's good. Which means we should be able to navigate this, right? So let's go. This is just going to navigate it with Vim motions. So if I click enter, that opens that up. Click enter on there. Click enter here. There's all my tests. And I'm guessing there's some way that I can like run these, make these run. That's really basic. I mean, if I can make it run, that basically means I have a test runner, or test explorer, and a way to run my tests now set up. I wonder. Let's look at the help docs again for the summary. I'm guessing they're help neotree.summary. Isn't that what we typed? Neotest. Oh, I was way off. Not neotest.summary. Okay, let's see. So there's the open toggle. Here we go. Run marked. Run marked. Marked. Run all marked positions. Return a table of all marked positions. Clear your marks. Set the target for an adapter. Some other commands. Okay, so let's close that. How do we mark these though? So enter doesn't work. Spacebar is not working. Well, enter is how you navigate the. Let's try M. I think it's marked. Yeah, so so can I unmark it? Oh yeah. So M marks and unmarks. Just toggles it. That must be like a default key binding that the plugin sets up. So okay, so let me mark one, and then let's go down to the terminal and let's run some Lua. So we'll say require neotest.summary.run marked, I think it was called. Oh, look, it's running. You see that? See the little spinny thing? Nice, it passed. Okay, so then can I do, there should be, h neotest dot output, I think. Output.open. So let's try running that. Require neotest.output.open. Oh, that must just only work in the. There was another one. There was Lua require neotest.output panel.open. Oh, but it's that panel scope to the that specific to the file. Basically, the file I have open. Okay, so let's set up some key bindings because that's going to get old doing. Oh, that must be the output window. Okay, that's going to get old. So let's set up some keybinds. And we will do that in the Neo test plugin. Go down here. And we're going to make a local. Like that. Then we can come down here, replace this at and then we basically just want to set up some of these these. So here's debug the nearest test, run the nearest test, stop the nearest test. Let's just set up all of these. Oh, and here's run the whole file. So let's set up all of these. Let's give ourselves another window. Okay, so it's going to be, I'm going to do this all under leader T and see how that goes. So vim dot keymap dot set, and this will be in normal mode. And then the next thing we give, I think, is the key we want to map. So we'll say leader tr for the run, test run. Whereas that's how I'm going to think about it in my head. Test, do something. So leader test run, and then the command. So in this case, it'll be neotest dot run. Or don't call it. You don't want to call it. And then I'm going to give it a description equals run nearest test vim.keymap.set. This is going to be in leader, what do we want to call this? T.file? Or should it be T.rf for run file? I think TF's fine. neotest.run. Oh, this actually needs to be a function. And it needs to be a function because we actually need to pass an argument to what we put in there. So this is going to be run file, run tests in file. Let's format this real quick. And so in here is where we want to do some stuff. So we want to do neotest.run, and then we're going to give it this guy. Take that out. Like that. We want to do keymap.set new. Sorry, I got a message. TD, I think this one, TD. So leader TD, like that, leader TD, and then we'll say this also needs to be a function. And the description equals debug nearest test. This. vim.keymap.set. And then we want to be able to stop. We obviously want to be able to stop the test, right? So TS is going to be function. This doesn't need a function. We wrap it. We'll say neotest.run.stop. Stop nearest test. Yeah. oh, we need to write the function for the debug. So what we want to do here is we want to write something like neotest.run.run, and then we're going to give it a strategy, and that's going to be DAP, which we've already set up. So that I'm guessing that won't work if you haven't already set up debugging. Could be wrong, but I'm guessing it won't unless you set up Neovim DAP. And then we need some stuff for output. So vim.keymap.set and I'm gonna have leader, no, not leader. I'm gonna have control T. That is gonna be my mapping for neotest.run, no, not run, summary.open. And I'm using control T because that's just what I'm used to doing in VS Code. That's what feels open test explorer. And you may say, well, Steven, you shouldn't have the same key maps as you use in VS Code, but I figure that's what's familiar, so that's what I'm going to use for now. That opens the summary. Then I need one that's going to open the output. So set. This is going to be what I want. Maybe TO, just to kind of stick with the theme. Test.output. I'm actually going to do toggle. That way I can open and close it. It's just a floating window. So open test output. No, actually we're going to say toggle test output. Because accuracy is important. Just space between these guys. Let's see. And then last one we'll do is we'll open up the panel. So we'll do this in T OP. Oh, this should also panel dot toggle. Actually, I don't think that did that have a toggle? I'll just do open for the moment. I don't think that had a toggle. Open test. So we have leader. Oh, I missed. We have leader. We have leader TR for run the nearest test, leader TF for run the whole file, leader TD for debugging a test, leader TS that stops the nearest test that's running, or I'm assuming, yeah, is running. Control T opens our summary, leader TO opens our output for a given test, and leader TO opens the panel, the output panel. Is there anything else? Oh, maybe watch. I want to watch. Yeah, let's see what there is for watching. So write this out, and then we'll type help neotest dot watch. We just have watch, and we have toggling the watch, and we have stopping. I think toggling makes the most sense for this, right? Turn it on, turn it off. So let's close that. There. m.keymap.set normal mode, leader tw neotest.watch.top. Did I mess up? Watch.top. Okay, so now let's write all this out and quit. And now, oh, I've done something wrong. Line 29. Line 20. Jump. No, I should 29 jump. What's the problem? Test summary open, watch toggle. We have a function. Test run. It said I tried to pass something that wasn't expected as a parameter. I wonder if, let's make sure all of these are neotest.output. But it does have an open. And it has a toggle. So let's make this one. Well, what doesn't it like here? Does it not like this neotest output toggle? Open. Oh, I guess output doesn't have a toggle method. Okay. Where's the summary? Summary. Oh, run marked. I should also set something up for that, shouldn't I? Run marked. And I should set something up for clearing marks. But this is wrong. This should be just open. Then, what was I saying? Oh, I should add something for m.keymap leader trm test run marked. With test.summary run. Then m.keymap.set in is going to be leader, and then we're going to say TCM. I don't know. Is three keys too many for for a shortcut. I don't know, for a key mapping. Summary dot clear. That way you don't have to do them one by one. There we go. Okay, so first things first, let's try some of our key maps. So my summary, or my explorer's Control T. Looks like it hasn't found any. I wonder if it doesn't find any because... Well, I wonder if it just takes a minute. Because it probably... I haven't looked at the code for NeoTest, but I'm guessing it's using command line tools. It's probably using .NET Test. It runs .NET Test in some way, shape, or form to figure out to basically do all the discovery, and then parses that and displays it. Maybe I have to open a file. Maybe the LSP has to attach. So let's just go to our main, kind of our main class in this SDK and see. So that's the LSP throwing that error, but now the LSP is there. Maybe I need to open up a test file. That's Anthropic API client tests. Yeah, okay, so you just have to open up a test file. Okay. I wonder if there's a way to like force it to discover Sure. It's highly recommended to use lazydev.mvim. What's that? Lazydev? Faster Lua LS setup for a Neovim that properly configures Lua LS for editing your Neovim config by lazily updating your workspace libraries. Huh. Well, add this to my ever-growing list of Neovim things to look at. Anywho, what was I going to say? NeoTest force discovery. I'm using NeoTest with PyTest. Well, it's probably nothing to worry about at this point. At this point, though, let's try some of those key maps. So let's try. Oh, that's kind of cool. So as I jump, does it move with me? Like if I go to the bottom of this file. No, I guess it doesn't. Okay, so I have a key map to run the nearest test now. So if I type space TR this should run this test. And it does, see? I don't know if you guys can see that. It's running right there. And it passed. It's kind of small. The icons are kind of small, but that's pretty cool. So I would love there to be like a play button here, right? That would be even cooler. I wonder if there's a way to do that. Neo test add play button in Neovim. This is a dependency of. Let's see. See if anyone's asked the question before. Play button. Play. Neo test. Display play button. I'm guessing it's not possible, right? Because, well, I shouldn't say not possible, because the UI has like that debug UI has clickable elements in it. So I'm not super familiar how that all works. Okay, it's not a deal breaker though. So, and if you have a keyboard centric workflow, which you I guess should have if you're using something like Neovim, you don't need a play button, right? You don't need a play button. You don't need to take your hand off the mouse and go click the play button. You just can space TR. Now let's try debugging this. So let's set a breakpoint here, and then we can just start debugging the test, right? So we can say space TD. Did I wait too long? Space DT. Oh, not DT. Space DT. Space TD. Something's happening. Config references missing adapter net core debug. Available are core CLR and PW-node. Okay, but I need to stop this now, right? So space TS. What? Waiting for debugger to attach. Close that. Graphic API client. It would help if I would learn how to navigate this. Okay, it failed. So, oh, I guess, yeah, I can look at the output, right? So if I type space TO, I see the output. So that was the output that was happening as this test was running, but obviously the debugger is not set up correctly. So then I can close that. Right? I just moved mine. I just need to move. Okay. So let's go back to what do I want to do? I want to edit my Vim config, and I need to do something with the configuration of Neo tests. So Neo tests, I need to basically specify some options here. I need to specify the adapter name. This is going to be DAP equals adapter name, and it looks like I named mine core CLR, which probably wasn't intentional. It probably was just what I copy and pasted. So let me right quit that, and we'll go back to Anthropic client API tests. Okay, jump to the bottom again. Set a breakpoint. Space TD. I don't think I did it right. Space TD. There we go. What? No test found. What if I type space TR? There we go. I'm guessing it probably doesn't register all. Oh, nice. It even, so the breakpoint actually gets picked up just by running the test, which makes sense. Kinda, I think. Yeah, so I can step over, see the result. Nice. So what happens if I don't have a breakpoint here? Space TD. Does it launch the debugger? But it doesn't stop anywhere. So that's kind of weird, right? I don't know. Is that weird? So if I have a breakpoint here, ACT. So if I have a breakpoint here and I push and I run the test, right? It's still going to hit this breakpoint. Oh, no, it's not. So it doesn't. Okay, cool. So then space TD should hit the breakpoint. Yes. Okay. This is like, so I love debugging tests. This is probably like my favorite development experience because here's why. As somebody who does a lot of manual testing of code for a living, when you're building something, let's say you're building a web app or you're building a console app, you end up developing these like smoke tests. You basically end up developing these tests that you run, right? So you're developing something, you write some code, and then as soon as you write the code, you rebuild the app and you go and you click on the GUI, or maybe you like run a command of your console app. I don't know, whatever you're building. You go and test it. You do some sort of manual test. And it's really easy to get stuck in this loop where you make a change to your code, you go do the manual test. You make a change to your code, that's kind of that becomes like your test loop and your development loop locally. At some point, though, you realize, like, why am I doing this manual clicking, or why am I doing this manual testing at kind of like the highest level of my app's interface just to make sure that some function call or something that I modified is doing what I would expect it to do. It's so much easier to take the time. I shouldn't say it's almost so much easier, because at the time it doesn't feel easier, right? At the time it feels onerous to have to go and set up a test. which is probably why you should always, always, always at the beginning of a project set up your test framework, whatever it is. Do that chore up front. That way, whenever you're in the middle of developing a feature and you find yourself doing that, you find yourself stuck in that loop of make a change, I go click on a button, make a change, I go click on a button. Instead of going and clicking on that button manually yourself, you go to your folder structure, you create a new test file, and you just write that test that you've been doing, clicking on that button or running that command, or maybe it's not even that. Maybe it's not even that type of a test. Maybe you were clicking on that button to test some sort of function deeper in the call stack. So maybe you just go and write a test where the entry point of the test is actually the function that you care about. And then once you have that written, you can run that scenario as many times as you want. And not only that, then you have the ability to do this, where you debug into that scenario, which is just, yeah, that's something gets me super excited. And I kick myself at times because I find myself sometimes doing that, where I'm developing a project, I'm working on a web app, or I'm working on a console app, or maybe even just working on something that kind of has a user interface, and you find yourself stuck in this loop of like, I make a change, I go do this thing. I make a change, I go do this thing. When you really should be, just go ahead and write a test. Save some time, spend some time authoring that thing that you're doing manually, and now you have the ability to always have that test. You can run it as many times as you want. You can debug it like this. So I'm super pumped about that. Okay, cool. So I think, I don't know. I shouldn't say I think that's it, because obviously I'm in my infancy of working in .NET, or working in Neovim. So there's probably more to this. Like even here, I just spotted tell neotest.net to use either solution or project. If Neovim is open from the solution root, using the project setting may sometimes find all nested projects. However, to locate all test projects in the solution more reliably, solution is better. And I almost always have a solution file, so I'm going to make that change. So let's just put it all back to our neotest. And we are going to tell neotest, no, not neotree, neotest. Was the discovery root. We change this to be what? Solution? Discovery root is solution. Yeah, sorry, I got a little excited there about debugging, about writing tests and debugging tests, but I just think it's underrated. I think it's a super underrated thing. Oh, and that should be in the DAP. That should be within the DAP argument. No, it's next. It's another parameter. Cool. Yeah. Okay. So what do you want? What do you say? You want to run all my tests? Let's run all my tests. Watch, some of them will fail. How do I open up my Control T? So yeah, you can see. I would like it when I open up the test summary. Oh, it's already doing it. I guess I was wrong. See, it's discovering my tests. I don't have to have a file open. It must just take a minute to. It's if we looked under the hood of this adapter, I'm guessing it runs .NET Test with some standard. It probably runs .NET Test and it like with a verbose output, then parses that output to actually build this view that we see. So we can switch over there. Go down here. Let's open all my tests. So let's just mark all of them. And then, right? Can I just mark all of them? Does that mark them all? I don't honestly know if it does. Let's open these up. Okay, then we're going to run all the marked ones. So we're going to type leader trm. There we go, and it runs them all. I'm guessing probably I bet this probably reports slower than Visual Studio Code. What do you think? I bet if we compare them side by side, this is probably slower. But hey, it works. Or I think it works. We're still running. These tests usually take like 30 seconds to run because there's some actual end-to-end tests that actually make requests to the Anthropic API. So they usually take about 30 seconds to run on the command line. And so then I'm guessing you factor it's going to take about 30 seconds for .NET Test to run, because I'm guessing under the hood that's what this is doing, is it's running .NET Test. There you go. And they pass. Cool. Awesome. Okay, I think I'm actually have to go here in like 10 minutes. I have to leave the house. Okay, cool. So let's quit all. Did I change anything in here? No. All right, guys. That's gonna do it for my stream today, I think. Yeah, thanks for coming along with me to set up NeoTest and specifically set up .NET testing with NeoTest. I hope you enjoyed it. Nobody really chatted much, which is cool. If you find this, if you're not watching me, if you're watching this and it's not on my stream and you're finding it later, maybe you're pursuing the Neovim path yourself. I hope maybe it was helpful. Maybe you figured something out that you were missing. Or maybe you just enjoyed watching and listening to me ramble. All right, I will see you guys later. I'm going to try to stream every day. Probably not going to happen every day, but that's going to be my goal. So I don't know how consistent I'll be with the timing, but I'll try to be around on a daily basis. And obviously, shoot me a message on... The best place to reach me is probably on Blue Sky. That's where I've been spending the most social time. So if you're on Blue Sky, if you're not on Blue Sky, get on Blue Sky. If you are on Blue Sky, you can find me. My handle is just at stephenfreeborn.com. Yeah, if there's a time of day that would work best to get on and stream where you guys would also be able to watch, let me know. I can pretty much take my lunch break during the day really whenever. So, yeah. Or if you guys want to watch me, if you guys want me to get back on in the evenings, I'm happy to do that some too. And if there's anything you might want to be curious to work on or maybe learn, I'm not like I said, I'm not a professional developer, and I would be reluctant to clear myself an expert, but I love to write code. I love to program, especially when it involves learning something new. So if there's a topic or some technology or something that you're interested in, curious about, maybe we can jump into it together. So yeah, go find me on Blue Sky and shoot me a message or leave a comment. There's not been anyone in the chat today, but obviously you're always welcome to chat. And if you're seeing this over on YouTube, you're always welcome to comment there. I am open to ideas. All right. I'll talk to you guys later. Have a good day.